Okay, and welcome to this sort of video, which is basically a sort of beginner's guide to Android. Hopefully you'll find this helpful, and it just gives you a bit of an overview of how Android works, how to sort of set up and use your Android phone, and makes things a bit easier, and certainly makes it a lot easier to follow than reading something from a manual, which is quite tricky, especially if you've never had a smartphone before. So I've got 3 Android smartphones here, which I've picked, which are all sort of fairly sort of mid-range handsets here. So we've got a Samsung Galaxy Ace, an HTC Wildfire S, and a Sony Ericsson Xperia Array. And part of the reason why I selected a couple of different handsets is, first of all, to let you know about what Android is. So Android is not the name of a phone, it's the name of an operating system. And it's the name of an operating system which runs on these phones. So for example, when you buy a PC, which might be made by Sony or Dell or HP or Acer or one of those companies, it runs on Windows, which is made by Microsoft. So these companies who make the hardware, the laptops, etc., it's not their software that runs in it, it's the Microsoft software, which is called Windows. And Android is a very similar concept. So when you buy a phone, a smartphone which runs Android, the hardware could be made by a different company. So Samsung, HTC and Sony Ericsson are all big Android manufacturers, Android handset manufacturers, but the software Android is actually made by Google. So Google make Android, and then what happens after that is the different manufacturers sort of customize Android to make it look a little bit different on their phone, maybe add some features, but effectively it runs the same way. And the advantage of that is all of these phones have access to what's called the Android Play Store, formerly known as Android Market, where you can download thousands upon thousands of apps. I think last I checked it was getting close to 500,000, if it's not exceeded that already, apps. And all Android phones generally can run the vast majority of apps available on the Play Store, and all Android phones work in a very similar fashion. So even though you'll see that when the screens are on they look slightly different, the concept of the idea is pretty much the same. So anyway, that's enough about the sort of background of Android. Let's sort of get stuck in. So first of all, I want to give you a quick tour of the sort of normal features or buttons you'll find on an Android phone. So if I start with the Samsung here, this is the Galaxy Ace, and apologies for the reflection here. You can maybe see my face in it, but basically you've got a number of different things here. So you've got, obviously this is the front of the phone. On the front you've got a home button here, which will come into more detail later. On the left hand side you've got a volume rocker for switching the volume up and down, so that would make maybe the speaker a bit louder if you're on a call. It might change the volume of music you're listening to, that kind of thing. On the other side, you've got what's called your lock key stroke power key. So your lock key, if you just tap that once, will lock the phone so that if you have it in, your bag or in your pocket, whatever, you won't accidentally press anything on the screen or any buttons and cause apps to launch and that kind of thing. But also holding it down will power the phone on or off. We'll come to that. We've also got a micro SD slot on the side here. Hopefully this is in focus, I can't really tell from here. But a micro SD slot, so a lot of Android phones don't necessarily have a huge amount of internal memory. So if you want to store lots of photos or music or video, you might want to buy a micro SD card and pop one in here. Some phones will come with one already, but you've got that. And at the top you've got your headphone jack for plugging in normal headphones for listening to music, and most Android phones just use a standard 3.5mm headphone jack. You've also got a USB port here for being able to connect your phone to a computer to download software updates, move music and photos over, that kind of thing. So that's sort of standard. And if you look at the other handsets here, if we look at the HTC, slightly different layout, as you can see, but really the same concept. So you've got your volume rocker, so volume up and down on the side there. The standby key is on the top rather than the side this time, so that's your power stroke standby key, and again that's your headphone jack up there. And completely touchscreen, there's no keyboards. Some Android phones do have keyboards, but the vast majority are completely touchscreen. So you can see it's a little bit different in size to the Galaxy Ace, and again, one advantage of Android is that it comes in all different shapes and sizes of phones, some with really large screens, some with small ones, some with medium ones. And then we've got the Xperia Array here, so Sony one. It's the same concept here. You've got up at the top of the phone again. Hopefully you can see this. I'm not sure if you can. You've got your standby stroke power button at the top there. Again, a 3.5mm headphone jack. And with this one, you can barely see it, maybe in this light, but there is a volume rocker just inside there for switching the volume up or down. So again, the same concept. What you might see is they've got slightly different layouts in the buttons at the front. So you can see the Xperia here has got what is called your back key there. That's your home key and your menu key, which you can see. And we'll come to what those do later on. The HTC, there's a home key there. Again, that's your menu key with the 3 lines. That's your return key to go back. And this is a search key, which is unique to the HTC handset. But like I said, we'll come back to that. And on the Samsung, it looks like you just got a home key. What you can't see is that once the phone's switched on, there's actually 2 keys to the side, which will light up and mirror like a menu key and a return key. You'll see that a bit later. So you've just got your Android phone. You've popped your SIM card in, you're going to switch it on for the first time. You've never used one of these phones before, you're not sure what you're doing. So this is the idea behind what I'm going to show you now. So I'm just going to start by switching on the phone. So I'm going to holding the button down the side here, which is the power stroke standby key. So I held it down for a couple of seconds till it powered on. That's it coming on now. And with HTC, it's the same idea. So we'll just long press that power key at the top. And that's it powering up. And the same with the Sony, so we're just going to press the power key on the top, and that should be it powering up in a second. So the different handsets obviously. So it takes a couple of seconds to boot up. So what I'll probably do is we'll start off with that's the Sony Ericsson. We're going to move the Sony Ericsson HTC aside for a second, and we're just going to focus on the Galaxy A. So first of all, you're actually in a lock screen here. To unlock the phone, you basically have this icon here. We have to drag that all the way to the right of the screen, and that would unlock the phone. Or this option here is actually to put the phone in silent mode, so we can drag all the way to the left, and that would put it in silent mode. There's actually, you probably can't see it too on the video, but there's actually a little sort of dot which appears. I don't know if you can see that. You can probably see the dot there. And when you drag it as far as that dot, that's the screen now unlocked. And this is what we call your Android home screen. On a Samsung or Samsung phones, generally the home screen looks the same. There's many different Android phones made by Samsung. You might have heard of the Galaxy S2, Galaxy W, the original Galaxy S. There's lots of different Galaxy handsets they do, which are generally Android phones. This is the Galaxy S. So I'm just going to give you a quick tour. So first of all, with every Android handset, you have something called a notification bar. So up at the very top here, you can probably see some icons which are showing you the battery power, the time, signal strength, that kind of thing. And that's really handy for keeping a track of, obviously all of those functions. But you can also drag down. So if we start from the top, we can drag this down. It's like a blind almost. So it's called the notification bar. And the reason why this is useful is, as the name sort of states, any notifications you get will appear here. So notifications might be like, a missed call or a text message or maybe an app telling you there's been a score in a football game or something like that. So they would appear in here. Obviously it's blank right now because there are no notifications of any kind, but they would appear in here. And you'll see a little symbol up at the top suggesting maybe you've got like a missed text or a missed call or something like that. And then you could drag down the notification bar and it'll give you a bit more detail. So yeah, maybe explore that a little bit later so you can see. You've also got shortcuts at the top here to various what are called quick controls. So you can very easily switch on or off Wi-Fi. So most Android handsets have Wi-Fi built into the phone. So if you've got your own home wireless network, you might want to use the Wi-Fi rather than use the mobile phone connection. The reason why you might do that, first of all, Wi-Fi is a lot quicker. And if you take out a mobile phone contract, generally there's a limit on how much data you're allowed to download. Whereas if you're using your own Wi-Fi or somebody else's Wi-Fi, those limits don't apply. So you can use the Wi-Fi to download large files without having to worry about it coming out of your mobile phone monthly allowance. Quick shortcut to Bluetooth there as well, so you want to connect to your car or Bluetooth headset. GPS, so all Android handsets generally again have GPS built in, so that means that they can connect up to satellites to give you an accurate location on where you are, which is really useful for maps, for getting directions to go places, and just finding things that are nearby. Something like Google Maps, which is free, we'll come to that later on. You need to have really GPS to make the most of that. We've also got quick access to turn silent mode on or off, useful if you're going to a meeting or somewhere else you need to keep the phone quiet, and also a shortcut to switch on or off auto rotation, and I'll explain what auto rotation is a bit later on. So that's your notification bar there. So to get rid of that, we can just drag that back up. And pretty much no matter where you are on the phone, apart from maybe some games, you can always drag down the notification bar, which is really useful. So even if I jumped into an app, so say for example I'll jump into messages here, I can still drag down that notification bar. So it's pretty persistent throughout the phone's user interface, or UI for short. Okay, so what else about your home screen here? So first of all, I don't know if you can see there's a little indicator here which tells you what screen you're on. You've got multiple screens. It's seeing one right now. If I go to the right, it's now changed to screen 2. And if I go right again, it turns to screen 3. So you've got multiple screens here. And the reason why you have multiple screens is because you can personalize each screen to do what you or to have the functions or apps that you'd like to have personal to you in your home screen. So for example, right now you can see there's a shortcut to Google Mail. So that's Gmail, that's Google's own email client. You've got a calculator, so a very quick use of calculator there. You've got YouTube, so you can browse and view YouTube videos. You've got internet, so actually to go on the internet. And you've got account, that's actually a really handy app which allows you, if you're on Virgin Mobile, to be able to check how many minutes and text you've got left, that kind of stuff on your contract. And there's a shortcut to Go Maps. What you've also got at the bottom is 4 icons here. You've got calling, your contacts, like your phone book, text messaging, and this here is your app drawer, that blue one there. And even if I swipe home screens, you can see that whilst other icons disappear, these 4 at the bottom stay the same, because these are probably going to be your most used things on the phone if you're calling or texting. So first of all, I want to show you how you can personalize your phone really easily. And that's one of the best things about Android. So say for example, this Maps is up here, I want to have it down with the rest of the icons. If I tap on the Maps icon, it launches the app. And that's not what I want to do. I want to move it around. So rather than tap it, I'm going to hold my finger down over it, otherwise called long pressing, for a second or two. Then you'll see that you can actually move it to a different location. Or if I don't want to have the map shortcut on the screen anymore, you'll see when I long pressed it for a second, this remove option comes at the bottom. If I drag it down over the remove, you'll see it goes red and let go. That application is now removed from the home screen. Still on the phone, and I can show you where that is, but it's no longer on the home screen. So that's how you can remove things from your phone really easily. You can also add things to your screen too. You can add shortcuts to applications, favourite contacts you call all the time, bookmark for websites. And that's dead easy. So anywhere you've got like a free space on your phone, so go to the screen here which is blank. If I long press, so hold my finger down for a few seconds over an empty space, I now get an option to add to home screen. I can add a widget, and I'll explain what a widget is in a second. I can add a shortcut, so the shortcut might be to, like I said, a person I call all the time, or a bookmark of some kind, like a website I visit all the time. It might be to an application that I use a lot. So lots of different things. Folders as well, and wallpaper. So I can change the wallpaper in my background, maybe to a photo of something that I really like a friend or relative, something like that. So let's choose widgets. So I can try and explain what a widget is. And I'm just going to choose clock here. So basically what a widget is it's almost like exposes the most common function of an app. So maybe a better example, if you go back to the screen here, we've got up here, it's a Google search widget. So normally if you wanted to search the internet, you'd have to go launch the internet application, which is just here, and then go to Google and then search for whatever it is you're looking for. And yeah, fair enough, you can do that, but it can take a little bit of time. It's maybe a bit clunky. With this Google search widget, rather than have to go into the internet and then go to Google to search for things, I can just literally tap in the Google search option, and I'll just agree to that, and then I can just put in whatever it is I want to search for. So it might be the BBC or something else, and I'll go straight there. So it's just giving me a really handy shortcut on my home screen to search the internet very quickly. And in this case, this widget here I've got for dual clocks is just telling me the time in London and another city of my choosing. Now, it may be not something you use very often, but if you want to have like a clock on your home screen, again, without having to jump into an app to check the time, or, put your glasses on so you can see what the time is at the top right here because it's quite small. I've got a nice big clock on my home screen, so very dead easy to use. And again, if I want to remove that widget, dead simple, a long press, and I've got the option to remove, and that's it now removed from the home screen. So it's very easy to add things, personalise things. So I'm just going to add another. So we're going to add an app this time. So we'll go for a shortcut. We'll have a shortcut to an application, and say let's have a shortcut to the camera. So now you can see a little icon for the camera, and if I want to move that around, a long press, and I can move it to a different part of the screen, or I can even hold it right to the edge, move to this screen here, and drop it in. So that's how you customize your home screen. Very straightforward. So yeah, the 4 icons at the bottom here, I'll go through these. So first of all, this is your call icon. So that is, first of all, we've got your keypad at the top here, so I can just dial a number. You know, it's just a made up number there. And if I want to call a number, I press the green key to call. Battery's getting a bit low. Hit that to delete. Or I've got access to my call log. That's any calls I've made or missed or dialed, etc. Got favourite contacts or contacts that maybe I call quite regularly. And actual access to my contacts, my phone book. Right now I don't have any contacts on this phone, so I can't really show you anything, but it's just to give you an idea basically. So that's that. So that's your call option. That's actually just a shortcut to your contacts. So this one here, this orange icon with the sort of person silhouette, that takes you into your actual contacts, and you can set groups, you can see history, various other things. You've also got here, this is your messaging icon, so that's your text messaging. So I can see you've got an option to write a new message, or any of your messages I've already got on the phone would be here. Currently there are no messages, mostly on the basis that well, you know, the phone's just been switched on, so there's no text messages on there already. So if I want to write a new message, I just tap new message, and one of the things you've got with Android is a QWERTY touchscreen keyboard. Now you might find that potentially this is a bit on the small side to sort of tap. So if you want to, this is where the auto rotate that I mentioned earlier on comes to effect. If I turn the phone, it now has rotated, so it's giving me a much bigger keyboard, which you might find a bit easier to type on or delete. And I'll just turn it back again, and that's that. Now I don't want to write that message, so we'll just come back out of that. So that is your messaging, and then here, this is your app drawer. So this is where all your apps are stored. So the phone comes with quite a lot of apps pre-installed already, and you can get more from the marketplace, Android Market, otherwise rebranded as the Play Store, and I'll come to that in a second, and explain how you set that up, because it's really crucial to really how you use the phone. So before we do that, what I'm going to do now is just going to tell you about these. You can see at the bottom here, I've not really explained what these buttons do yet. So you've got 3 buttons here. This middle key here, that's your home button. So no matter where I am on the phone, say if I'm in the internet or calculator or something like that, if I press this middle black key, it's going to take me back to my home screen. What I've also got is these 2 keys lit up on the side. I've got the back key here, so that takes you back a screen. So say if I'm in the, for example, I was in text messaging there, and I wrote a new message, and if I want to go back to the previous screen, it takes me back, takes me back, takes me back. So it takes you back a stage at a time. So say for example you're browsing the internet, you want to go back to your previous page, pressing return key will take you back a page. You keep pressing it, it'll keep taking you back a step at a time. Or if you're in an application like text messaging there, it takes you back a step at a time from each different screen you've been in. So it's a really handy way of just navigating back if you need to. On the left hand side here, you can see this lit key is the menu key, and what this does is it gives you more options. So say for example you're inside an application and it's not obvious what it is you want to do, pressing the menu key gives you more options. So in this case the menu key is giving me an option to change my wallpaper, give me a quick shortcut to jump into the settings menu of the phone, which is quite important, allow me to edit the home screen, drag down a notification bar, that kind of stuff. And this menu key will change what it allows you to do based on what app you're in. So for example, if I go into the messaging here, if I press menu, I've got different options. So this one's giving me an option to again jump to message, but message settings, search my messages, or compose a new message. So yeah, depending on where you're in, you will get different options by pressing the menu key. So it's something to remember. If you don't see what it is you want to do within an application, try pressing the menu key and it should give you some more options. Quite a handy thing to have there, I think you'll agree. So that's the menu key. One other thing I want to talk about a little bit with Android here is long pressing. So I've already showed you about long pressing. For example, you can move things around on the home screen. Long press is quite important there at Android because it gives you options that might not otherwise be immediately obvious. So say for example, let's try pick some kind of application here that's on the phone to give you an idea of what I mean by that. Let's see if I can pick maybe messages again, and we'll go to new message. Might not be the best option. Let's see what we got here. Maps, settings, email, My Files. Okay, so we'll jump into My Files. This is an application that's on this phone which allows you to browse your memory card from your phone. You can see what's inside it. So we could go into one of these and I can have a look at something. Now, if I press the menu key, I'm going to get more options to do various things, but also I can try long pressing. So if I try long pressing in this folder, you can then see I've now got this new menu which gives me this option to delete this folder, move it, etc. So basically long pressing is quite a useful thing within Android. So if the menu key doesn't give you the option you're looking for, instead of using the menu key, try long pressing on an item and you get more options. So just a useful thing to know and to learn. Another handy tip is obviously that pressing this black key in the middle, no matter where you are in the phone, in the app drawer or whatever, takes you always back to your home screen. But if you long press, so if you rather than just tap it once, you just hold your finger over it for a couple of seconds, it actually gives you a list of your most recently used applications. So very quickly, I can see here I had My Files open, had messaging open, had the calculator open. So if I want to jump back to the calculator, I can just tap that, or for long press again. Now I want to go back to my file manager, I can tap that. So really quick and easy way to navigate around the different applications that are on the phone there, basically. So just some handy tips and hints there about how you'd go about doing that. So that gives you an overview of the sort of basic idea of Android. So we've talked about how you've got your volume rocker on the side, your standby keys. This is the lock key, as I mentioned earlier on. So if I press that now, that's the phone locked. It's not off, it's just locked, so I can't press it by accident when it's in my pocket or bag. So to unlock it, tap that again, brings me back to my lock screen, and to unlock it, I'm just going to swipe that to the side, and that's the phone unlocked. If I want to switch the phone off, rather than just tapping it, which would lock it, if I hold it down for a second or two, long pressing, I've now got an option to switch the phone off, power it off, put it in flight mode. So I'm taking a flight somewhere. Obviously, I don't want to, get in trouble for using my phone on the plane. I can do that. I can still listen to music. Switch data off. So say, for example, I don't want to have data on for some reason, like I'm going abroad, and I can switch that off, or quickly put it in silent mode. If I want to get rid of that, let's just press the return key, and that just takes me back away as well. So now that gives you an idea of the overview. Now you're probably thinking, okay, so I've got all these really cool apps here. How do I find the apps that I want to use? So the way you do that is you do that through what is called the Android Market, which has just recently been rebranded as the Play Store. So if we swipe along to it, you can see there's a shortcut to Market here. And to be able to use the marketplace, you need to have what's called a Google account set up. Now, if you use Google Mail, like Gmail, as it's otherwise known, then you'll already have a Google account. Or if you use things like Google Docs on the web or other Google products, you may already have a Google Mail account set up, in which case you would just use that. If you don't, then you need to create a new one. It literally just talks you through what you need to do. So next, so it's asking here, do I want to create a Google Mail account? Or do I want to sign in, basically, to one that I already got? So depending on your option, you would sign in or create. So I'm just going to turn the screen away for a second whilst actually I'll show you one thing. Before we're going to go back to show you how to set up an account in a second, but I am going to just turn the Wi-Fi on the phone. So if I want to use Wi-Fi, which is a better thing to do at home because it's going to be a bit faster for browsing the web, doing things, if I turn Wi-Fi on, it now gives me all the local Wi-Fi networks, and this one here at the top, that's my Wi-Fi network. So if I tap that, then it asks me for the password so I can get in.